A painfully unfunny recap of the Danganronpa games. Here we go! Part 1, Trigger Happy's Heart Attack. So there's this academy named Hope's Peak, right? And the only students that get in are the ones deemed the best at their talents. Our generic protagonist is Makoto Naegi, a boring-ass normie with all the personality of a plank of wood. The only reason he got in was because he was lucky enough to win the lottery against the other talentless freaks. He steps onto the canvas, only to black out like my granddad in his armchair, and wakes up to discover he's been locked inside the building. Of course, he's not alone. He's got 14 other classmates in the same position. Let's meet the cast. We got a fat weeaboo, the scout from TF2, a J-pop idol, Tumblr in human form, the hall monitor, baguette head, the junkler, questiony the question mark, tech nerd, donut girl.
That's a huge bitch!
Donald Trump Jr., Weed Man, and The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. They head to the gymnasium where they first meet Monokuma, who's somehow the headmaster, and he's all like, "What's up, losers? I'm keeping you locked here forever. If you don't like that, then commit." And Mondo's all like, "Fuck you, Teddy!" And then he yeets that bear so hard that he explodes. But it's never that simple, is it? Monokuma's like, "Psych!" and he comes back like nothing happened. He explains the rules and then he fucks off. They head to their dorms and Makoto bumps into Sayaka like a fucking klutz, and she's all like, "Hey, didn't we go to school together?" And now she's his sidekick. The Robin to his Batman. What could go wrong? A few days go by, everybody's trying to get along, friendships are made, Hifumi's all like, "Miss Celeste, please step on me," and some other shit. Nobody's dead, so Monokuma gets bored and he starts giving out motives so everybody has a reason to graduate. Sayaka drops by again and she's all like, "I'm being stalked, can we swap rooms? I'll feel so much safer if you take the bullet." And the next morning she's the first one to die. How fucking ironic. Monokuma appears on every monitor and he's all like,
"A body has been discovered!"
I'm not gonna say this every time, it'll get annoying. He gathers everyone together to announce that you also have to get away with the murder in order to leave. Since he knows who did it, he's gonna hold a class trial so the Ultimates can try to solve the case. Where is Phoenix Wright when you need him? If they get it right, the Blackened is punished. If they get it wrong, the Blackened goes free and everybody else dies. So then Junko's all like, "We're not gonna play this game with you anymore and stuff," and then she steps on him. But Monokuma's all like, "Joke's on you, I'm into that shit!" And he stabs her to death with a bunch of spears. And then he uses her corpse as a prop to explain how to investigate a murder scene. After that, they head down the elevator and the class trial begins, Makoto being the prime suspect since Sayaka died in his room. They waffle on for about 2 hours, sometimes getting sidetracked and sometimes playing a stupid minigame, and then the truth is revealed. Turns out Sayaka was going to stab someone like it's the streets of London and frame Makoto by switching the dorm nameplates. What a fucking snake. But as it turns out, the other guy took a practice sword from the room, stole Sayaka's knife, and finished the job so she couldn't tattle on him. In her final moments, Sayaka used her blood to write the number 11037, which looks like Leon upside down. Stupid logic, I know. He also sucked at hiding the evidence, and being the ultimate baseball star, he was the only guy that could pitch it into the incinerator. And to top it all off, he never really had a counter-argument. He just did what most cancel culture victims do and denied everything. He makes my Leon look like a super genius. Monokuma confirms they got it right, the class trial ends, and he executes Leon by pummeling him to death with a machine gun full of baseballs. The next day, the 12 remaining students discover a letter mentioning that Hope's Peak Academy has been closed for at least a year. Meanwhile, Mondo and Taka form the greatest bromance in human history. Everybody else is still wandering around in confusion. They're all like, "This is fucking traumatizing." Monokuma comes back and he's all like, "Good, here are some letters with your deepest, darkest secrets. You have 24 hours to kill or I expose your asses." Some of them have humiliating things behind closed doors, but it's not enough to commit a murder. But then we fast forward 24 hours later and we find out Chihiro's been crucified in the women's changing room. Boring investigations happen, and during the class trial, we learn that Toko becomes a serial killer every time she sneezes or passes out. But for some apparent reason, the developers couldn't decide on a fucking name. Turns out she's not the murderer because it doesn't fit the criteria of her victims, and it would have been way too fucking obvious even without that factor. It's also revealed that Chihiro was a boy the whole time, and he only cross-dressed as a girl so he wouldn't get bullied for being weak. He's not trans, people. Nothing wrong with that, but it's really not a big deal. The flame wars have to stop. Anyway, Chihiro was working out at night hoping to toughen up, but then he gets clocked in the head with a dumbbell. They dumped his body in the women's locker room to confuse everyone, and Byakuya messed with it a little to make it look like Toko did it. He really stooped that low just to get his crazy stalker off his back. Mondo confesses to his crime and admits Chihiro asked to help him get stronger, so he snapped out of jealousy and insecurities over forming his biker gang and his brother sacrificing his life to save him. But none of this even matters because it was a stupid reason to kill in the first place. He's tied to a motorcycle, rides around a big cage, gets electrocuted, liquefied into butter, and served with some pancakes. Byakuya gets interrogated about why he tampered with the crime scene, and he's all like, "Cause I watched it happen." And everyone else is like, "You what, mate?" And he's all like, "I was gonna frame Toko and reveal the true killer at the last second, but Makoto killed all the fun."
Yeah, you fun Nazi.
Meanwhile, Monokuma is approached by a mole who confirms there's actually a 16th student, but we don't know who it is. Being a massive troll, Monokuma refuses to say who it is as they're his trump card for later down the line. Chapter 3, arguably nobody's favorite chapter in any of the games. So the students find a picture of 3 classmates in a comma setting that's not within the academy, and I don't know what's stranger, the fact that they seemingly didn't know each other before the incident, or the fact that all 3 are dead now. Later on, they find Chihiro's laptop with an AI called Alter Ego, who was created to break the decrypted files about the school. My boy was ahead of his time. On top of this, Taka is so overcome with grief over his bro from another hoe's death that he unlocks Ultra Instinct years before Goku did it. New murder motive. Monokuma invites everybody back to the gym and he's all like, "I'll give you $10 billion if you win." Apparently, the chance to become richer than the goddamn president of the United States isn't enough to convince them. But then they discover somebody stole the laptop. What's even more ridiculous is that there's now a person in a giant robot costume hitting people with hammers that get bigger over time. Celestia gets bonked with a smaller one and lives to tell the tale, but the same can't be said for Hifumi and Taka. He only had his new form for 5 minutes! What the fuck was the point of that? And to make matters worse, Hifumi's fat ass didn't die immediately, and before he passes away, he reveals the killer was Yasuhiro. We're supposed to believe this useless brain-dead moron that rambles about aliens stealing his hamburger is the killer. Well, yeah, turns out he was found in a robot costume shortly after, but it goes a lot deeper. Nothing makes sense in Danganronpa. During the trial, we find out that Hifumi made a deal with the killer to dispose of Taka and frame Yasuhiro for it. They speedrun making the costume and drug Yasuhiro like he's Bill Cosby's latest victim. Hifumi proceeds to channel his inner King DDD and clobbers that there Taka before hiding the body. They then stage this whole mystery about the big dumb robot with the big dumb hammers. Turns out Hifumi faked his own injury and his own death at the same time Taka's body was discovered to confuse the time of murder, and with everybody distracted, Hifumi sneaks away only to be betrayed by the real culprit to cover up the crime. And who was the gal Hifumi was simping for the whole time? Do we even go along with something like this?
God damn it!
You know, for the ultimate gambler and the self-proclaimed queen of liars, she lost her composure way too quick. And that's coming from me. As it turns out, Celestia's real name is Teiko Yasuhiro, so technically Hifumi was right the whole time. She even casually admits she wanted the money just so she could eventually buy a European castle with vampires for butlers. I can't believe we treated you like a charming goth goddess. Burn the witch!
Driving in my car right after a beer.
So everybody's in despair and hope is fading, but Alter Ego's almost done decrypting everything on the hard drive. I wonder what's in this folder. Anyway, Makoto and Kyoko find a hidden room with one of the 8 pages that Slenderman left lying around before getting jumped by this thing. Sakura gets into a fight with Monokuma and she's all like, "The deal's off, Winnie the Pooh." And he's all like, "Nah." Our heroes find another picture with 3 dead people on it, and Alter Ego finally finishes the task at hand. We learn that the academy was built like this on purpose, just so they could be isolated after something terrible happened on the outside world. The emoji movie. Monokuma throws Sakura under the bus and tells everybody that she was the mole the whole time, and Sakura's all like, "Yep, I did it, I'm guilty." Alter Ego now wants to connect to the school network to find a way out for them, even if he dies in the process. Aoi rushes in and she's all like, "Stop everything, we gotta help my bestie." Clearly, Donut Girl over here didn't double check, because in this very sealed room, our beloved Sakura has already kicked the bucket. This isn't the first time a bench has given me PTSD. Anyway, investigations happen, we get to the trial, this is how it all went down. Sakura invited a bunch of people to the rec room, Toko arrived first and hid in the locker like a pussy. Sakura finally shows up, Yasuhiro panics and he smashes her over the head with a glass bottle, hoping Toko will get blamed instead. Toko sees all of this go down and hides his clue, only for Sakura to wake up and scare Toko into fainting. But then she pops back up, surprise, muscle mommy! And she snaps into genocide or whatever the fuck, and Sakura gets bottled again. In the end, Sakura's all like, "Oh, screw this, you all suck donkey balls." And she kills herself by drinking poison. When everybody found her body, Aoi switches the poison bottle with a protein bottle. Everybody gets rightfully pissed off at her, like, "You fucking tried to get us all killed." And Aoi reveals the suicide note, and she's all like, "You all bullied my bestie and betrayed her trust, you can all go die just like her." And then Monokuma's all like,
By the way, the suicide note was fake, XD.
key? The real one comes out and we learn that Sakura had to follow orders since her entire dojo was being held hostage. She could no longer handle the stress and conflict, so she killed herself to free her clan and reminded everybody that they meant a lot to her. Despite Sherlock and Watson over here solving the case, Monokuma decides to punish someone anyway, so he destroys Alter Ego. You see, voice actors? You don't need to protest against AI to make a difference. Just call your local homicidal Build-A-Bear. Later that night, Kyoko wakes Makoto and drags him to the data processing room. Monokuma cockblocks them, probably because robots don't sleep, and before they head back to bed, Kyoko whispers the following line.
Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th student, lying hidden somewhere in this school. The one they call the ultimate despair. Watch out for her.
This became a big meme in the fandom because they flash back to it every 2 fucking minutes, so I'm saving you the brain cells. Anyway, they look around again and they find an untouched classroom after a massacre, probably what caused the academy to shut down. They also find a pickaxe that says Crazy Diamond on it. What, are we talking the Pink Floyd song or the JoJo stand here? Kyoko also tells us that Sakura broke the lock on the headmaster's office before she Alt F4'd herself. She also found a key and decides to go undercover for the next few days. Makoto wakes up that night to a masked person standing over him with a knife. And that's it. Nothing happens. The others stay up all night dismantling a Monokuma they found and they learn that it's remote controlled. Assuming it's not being controlled by the mastermind right now, they storm the headmaster's office. To pry open the doors, they go to get the pickaxe only to find a masked person who's been stabbed with a knife. Toko tries to take the mask off and then BOOM! Blows up like a Bosnian landmine. The body's now too burnt to be recognized, but at least they found another key. They get to the data processing room only to find this is where the mastermind's been watching them on the cameras. Not only that, but it's also being broadcasted on live TV or the dark web or some shit for all to see. Monokuma returns after playing dead and he's all like, get pranked! Also, there's gonna be a trial for the masked fella. Okay, bye Lamau. So they take a look at the Monokuma file, which just sounds like a clever name for pedo bear, and it doesn't identify the victim, but they do discover a student register for the ultimate soldier, Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th I'm not doing that shit again. They find some more things related to her, and when it's finally time for the class trial, Kyoko comes back like, howdy doody, what'd I miss? Everything! You missed everything! So with the corpse being identified as Mukuro's, Kyoko's the only suspect. It's all boring and predictable until Makoto's once again all like, no, that's wrong! Or as they say in Japan, Makoto clears Kyoko's name, but it opens up holes in his own argument. He's left the only possible suspect, and despite calling this out as a trap by the mastermind, he's executed anyway. Rip Bozo. But of course, being the main character, Makoto just pulls plot armor out of his ass. Alter Ego comes back from the dead to hack the execution and drop Makoto before he's crushed. Makoto now finds himself in the trash compactor from Star Wars where he finds Kyoko, who jumped in to save him like he saved her. Also, she's got this silly noodle cup on her head now. It has no plot relevance, I just think it's funny. So Kyoko's all like, I'm actually the ultimate detective. And Makoto's all like, bitch, it was pretty fucking obvious. She also says she's looking for her father, Jin Kirigiri, the real headmaster of the academy. And if you watch the very first scene of the prologue, you can put the pieces together on what happened to him. It also turns out that the recent trial was indeed a trap to get Kyoko killed as revenge for stealing the key. Even though Mukuro was the one they call the ultimate despair, there are actually 2 people responsible for the tragedy. So they climb the ladder to escape, we get this unnecessary upskirt of Kyoko for all you degenerates out there, and they confront Monokuma. He's told that he broke his own rules for the sake of revenge, and Kyoko makes a suggestion since the last trial didn't count. She wants to wager everybody's hope against despair, which sounds so cheesy that Wallace would want to take a bite out of it. Monokuma's all like, fine, shut up. If you can solve everything, you're free to go. Otherwise, I'm killing you all where you stand. This means Mukuro's murder still needs to be solved, as somebody did kill her despite the revenge trial. Anyway, the Scooby-Doo gang over here look for clues one last time, and they discover some more interesting things. Just to name a few, one body was missing from the morgue, and Mukuro's corpse might not even be Mukuro's. Monokuma shows a photo of all the students except for Makoto, all happy and wearing a different uniform. There's also a tape of them agreeing to stay at the academy in an interview, but no one remembers that happening. During the final trial, they all provide photos, but then consider the possibility of everyone having collective amnesia. Going back to the Mukuro murder, they mention a body was used twice. Mukuro's body actually belonged to Junko's death. They narrow it down to Mukuro being disguised as Junko, and the real Junko is still alive. Monokuma finally gives in, and as the smoke clears, Junko Enoshima, the diva of despair herself, takes the stage. Oh yeah, and she's also got split personalities now that change frequently. This bitch is too crazy even for me. Junko reveals that Mukuro is actually her twin sister who had an unhealthy obsession with her, hence why the disguise worked. So technically they're both responsible for the tragedy, but Junko's mostly at fault by getting Mukuro to do shit. The headmaster, Kyoko's father, sealed the students inside to protect them, but Junko executed him in order to set up the killing game. So turns out the outside world is Armageddon now and despair crushed all hope in society. Makoto doesn't believe it, but Junko reveals that there was a time skip and they lost the last 2 to 3 years of their memories. Not even Sol Goodman could defend this psycho. And neither will I. I don't care how hot she is. Even with all of the events recapped to them, Makoto still doesn't back down and he lifts everybody's spirits again with the power of friendship. Hope finally overcomes despair. Junko's all like, you guys are gross, and then she executes herself with every punishment that she dished out before. She somehow survives up until the end, where she inevitably gets crushed to death by the very thing that should have killed Makoto. Our 6 survivors finally open the door and go to touch some grass. Until Monokuma's all like, hey guys, how do you feel about sequels?
Want me to squish you in between them? Big boobs feel good, you know.